Welcome to a new edition of Mission Minute News. I'm Dominican Sister Jean Harris. First, the headlines. A call to return to the Eucharist. What one person can do. Benedict XVI, now the oldest pope. CARES money for private schools on hold. Water battle in the Himalayas. And Pope hails frontiers as mutually enriching. A call to return to the Eucharist. Cardinal Robert Sarah, head of the Vatican Office for Worship and Sacraments, sent a letter to bishops around the world urging a return to Eucharistic celebration as soon as it can be done safely. Highlighting the community dimension of the Church, he said, "We cannot exist without Christian community, and we cannot live as Christians without participating in the sacrifice of the cross in which the Lord Jesus gave himself to save humanity." The letter also said that while the Church should cooperate with civil authorities and be attentive to safety protocols amid the pandemic, liturgical norms are not matters on which civil authorities can legislate. Only bishops can make temporary changes to liturgical rubrics in order to accommodate public health concerns, urging obedience to those changes. The Cardinal noted that as soon as circumstances permit, we need to return to the normality of Christian life, with the church building as its home and the celebration of the liturgy, especially the Eucharist, as the summit toward which the activity of the Church is directed and the font from which all her power flows, quoting from Sacrosanctum Concilium, number 10. Although he appreciated the efforts of the parishes to stream or televise Masses, he said no broadcast is comparable to in-person communication, nor can replace it. We must return to the Eucharist with a purified heart, with a renewed amazement, with an increased desire to meet the Lord, to be with Him, to receive Him, and to bring Him to our brothers and sisters with the witness of a life full of faith, love, and hope, the Cardinal concluded. What one person can do. Scott Harrison intends to bring clean water to everyone on the planet. With a history of drugs, gambling, drinking, and smoking, especially when Scott worked as a nightclub promoter, he found that he had to hit rock bottom before he could change his life. One night, it happened. He was spiritually and emotionally bankrupt, so Scott decided to take a year off to serve others. No one wanted to hire him with his background. He ended up going with Dr. Gary Parker to Liberia, where Dr. Parker has been helping people with deformities. This was life-changing for Scott. He went to rural villages and saw what people were drinking, dirty, polluted water from streams where animals also drank. Diseases were rampant, caused by bad water. Discovering that 785 million people were without access to clean water, he decided to hold his 31st birthday party as a fundraiser for water. Eventually, 700 donors gave $20 each to charity water. They were able to build 3 wells in Uganda. Thus began the incredible story of helping millions get clean water. Young people began using their birthdays to raise money for this project. Max, a 7-year-old, raised $22,000 going door to door. Rachel wanted to help and began raising funds. Even though she died in an accident, many gave in her honor. Now the water projects number 50,000, positively impacting many families. Scott Harrison is still working to achieve the goal of bringing clean water to everyone on the planet, hoping to raise another $11 million. It takes only $40 to furnish one person with clean water. Next time you turn on a faucet, think of this story. Benedict XVI, now oldest pope. Born on April 16, 1927, Pope Emeritus Benedict XVI officially broke the oldest pope in history record previously held by Pope Leo XIII, who died in 1903 at the age of 93 years, 4 months, and 3 days. At 93 and nearly 5 months, Benedict officially became the oldest pope in history. Although, due to ill health, he had to step down from the active papacy in 2013, assuming the title Pope Emeritus. According to Italian magazine Famiglia Cristiana and Italian Episcopal journal Avvenire, Leo XIII still holds one record as the oldest reigning pope. On November 25, 1981, the Pope-to-be, Cardinal Joseph Ratzinger, had been appointed by Pope John Paul II as prefect of the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. He also became president of the Biblical Commission and of the Pontifical International Theological Commission. Then, from 1986 to 1992, his presidency of the Commission for Drafting the Catechism of the Catholic Church in 6 years of intense work resulted in the publication of the CCC, one of his many outstanding achievements. On the death of John Paul II in 2005, Cardinal Ratzinger was elected the 265th pontiff, becoming Pope Benedict XVI. He retired after 8 years in office, citing diminishing strength, and was succeeded by his 10-year junior, Jorge Bergoglio, Jesuit, an Argentine cardinal who took the name Francis. Benedict now lives a quiet life in a former convent inside the Vatican grounds. Often seen in a wheelchair, he appears to be increasingly frail. Nevertheless, Benedict traveled to his native Bavaria in June to be at the bedside of his 96-year-old brother, the two being very close, even ordained the same day in 1951. Georg died on July 1st. CARES money for private schools on hold. On August the 29th, Catholic News Agency reported that a federal judge, James Donato in San Francisco, had blocked a rule by the Department of Education for allocating pandemic relief money to private schools. Donato's preliminary injunction says the rule has gone too far. The Education Department had understood that CARES Act money was intended to help ease the economic impact on all educational agencies, including private schools. However, already in July and early August, several states had filed a lawsuit against Secretary DeVos, saying that such funding applies only to Title I schools, those with low-income students. A little review here. In 1965, Title I federal funding was established to ensure that all children have a fair, equal, and significant opportunity to obtain a high-quality education, reaching at least minimum standard achievement levels, in effect giving funds to schools with large concentrations of low-income students, at least 40%, enrolled in federal lunch programs. DeVos countered with the argument that CARES Act programs are not Title I programs, and thus not subject to the limitation on use only for low-income students. Rather, that the CARES Act is a special pandemic-related appropriation to benefit all American students, teachers, and families impacted by coronavirus. She paralleled her position with the fact that federal funding, including CARES Act funding, flows without argument to both public and private higher education institutions. Further, the department is asking financially secure private schools not to seek unneeded help. The Education Department plan provides two options to K-12 schools. One, if a district uses CARES funding in all its public schools, then it must also fund the private schools there. Or if a district chooses to use funds only for students in Title I schools, it must also fund private Title I schools. Donato's ruling as it stands is halting DeVos guidelines from being implemented in California, Hawaii, Maine, Maryland, Michigan, New Mexico, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, and Washington, D.C., as well as in school districts in Chicago, Cleveland, New York City, and San Francisco. Paul Long, president and CEO of the Michigan Catholic Conference, contends that Congress included non-public schools in the CARES Act to ensure all students are treated equally without prejudice due to the schools they attend. He stresses that low and middle-income families in private schools are affected by the COVID-19 pandemic just as those in public schools are. Water battle in the Himalayas. The place is Galwan Valley, located in the Tibetan Plateau of the Himalayas, the highest plateau in the world at 4,500 meters or almost 15,000 feet. To get the full picture of this report, you need to know that 46% of the world's population depends upon rivers originating from Tibetan highland glaciers, considered Asia's water tower. Asia has 10 mighty river systems, among them the Yellow River, Yangtze, Mekong, Indus, Ganges, and Brahmaputra. Waters coming from the Tibetan glaciers, known for purity and mineral content, feed them all. From high up in the Himalayas, water flows down and becomes the source of life for many countries in South Asia. To cut off or stifle these rivers is to eliminate the source of life for many millions of people. The rivers Brahmaputra, Indus, and Ganges, fed by Tibetan glaciers, flow down to 5 South Asian countries, namely Nepal, Bhutan, India, Pakistan, and Bangladesh. Following its strategy to corner natural resources, China annexed Tibet in the 1950s and called it the Peaceful Liberation of Tibet. The Tibetans, on the other hand, called it the Chinese invasion of Tibet. China now controls the Tibetan Plateau and therefore the glaciers feeding the 10 great river systems. China's hunger for territorial expansion uses the salami slicing strategy to gain more territory, not just in the Himalayas, but also in the South China Sea. In military parlance, salami slicing involves the divide and conquer process, using threats and alliances to overcome opposition. These incremental steps to acquire new territories would have been difficult and unlawful if done all at once. Internationally shared water resources can become political weapons by damming the rivers before they leave Chinese-controlled territory, thereby denying or limiting the downstream flow. The Galwan Valley between India and China has a 2,100-mile line of control with India on the left and China on the right. Using the slicing strategy, China has moved over the line and now claims sovereignty of the whole Galwan Valley. The result was the June 15th bloody battle between Indian military and China's People's Liberation Army, their PLA. Rocks, clubs, spears, knives, machetes, and hand-to-hand combat saw 20 Indians dead and an unconfirmed 40 or more Chinese. While there are de-escalation talks, ground provocations by the PLA continue, it is hoped that a peaceful solution will come soon. History tells us that no single power or huge empire is forever. Great empires like Babylonian, Assyrian, Mede, Persian, Mongolian, and Roman were all strong once, but now exist only in the halls of history. In Catholic social teaching, the God-given gift of water is free and destined to flow freely for all people's survival, growth, and flourishing. In God's vision, glaciers provide the reservoirs for rivers to flow thousands of miles, benefiting all and never being used as a political weapon. Pope hails frontiers as mutually enriching. Pope Francis met with participants of the European project Snapshots from the Borders in audience, thanking them for their work aimed at promoting the common good and dismantling barriers. He greeted participants by describing their project as a forward-thinking one. He said that through it they are promoting a deeper comprehension of migration, allowing European societies to give a more human and coordinated response to the challenges of modern-day migration. Snapshots from the Borders is a project aimed at informing European citizens about the realities surrounding migration today. For the past 3 years, the organization has been bringing voices and effective solutions from borders where issues regarding migration are a concrete reality, raising awareness, sharing knowledge, encouraging participation, and showing citizens that they have an important role to play. The network of local authorities and civil society organizations, which was born from this project, aims to contribute positively to the development of migration policies that respond to this aim, said the Pope. Further, that the current migration scenario is complex and often has dramatic implications. The global interdependencies that determine migration flows should be studied and better understood. No one can remain indifferent to the human tragedies that continue to occur in different regions of the world, said the Pope. Recalling his meeting with the bishops of the Mediterranean in Bari last February, Francis noted that many of those suffering in the Mediterranean are fleeing terror in search of a better life. Often these people are rejected and become victims of indifference. And we never accept that those seeking hope by sea die without ever receiving help. The problem of welcome and integration is not easy, but it is unthinkable to face it by raising walls, said the Pope. Addressing the need for concrete solidarity and shared responsibility at both national and international levels, the Pope said, "We must act together, not alone." Pope Francis then expressed the importance of changing how we see and recount migration. It is about putting people at the center, their faces and their stories. This is why projects such as yours are so important, said the Pope. Inspired by a culture of encounter, you try to propose new approaches that make up the journey toward a new humanity as a philosophy of life, spirituality, and behavior. Hispanic leadership in the Church. Honoring Hispanic Heritage Month, September 15 to October 15, Bishop Arturo Cepeda, Auxiliary Bishop of Detroit and Chairperson of the U.S. Conference of Catholic Bishops Subcommittee on Hispanic Affairs, declared that both the Catholic Church and the American society must acknowledge the historic and current contributions of Hispanics and Latino leadership in all spheres of the Church and society. This year, Hispanic Heritage Month is especially meaningful as the Catholic Church in the United States is reaping the fruits of a 4-year process called the 5th National Encuentro of Hispanic Latino Ministry. All the encuentros have recognized how Hispanics, Latinos have been woven into the very fabric of church and society in the U.S. for many generations. In preparation for and during the 5th Encuentro process, significant demographic research was conducted and aggregated on the Latino presence. From 1990 to 2016, the U.S. Hispanic Latino Catholic population increased by about 13.7 million, while the overall U.S. Catholic population increased by only about 3.6 million. Clearly, Hispanics have been a major driving force behind the growth of the Catholic Church in the United States over the last 3 decades. The 5th Encuentro process has showcased the deep faith and commitment to the Church of Hispanics and Latinos, said Bishop Zepeda. The Encuentro demonstrated their entrepreneurship, profound awareness and care about societal ailments, and strong commitment to social justice, including a wide range of life issues. Viva los Latinos y las Latinas. Update on Catholic schools. The Los Angeles Archdiocese is determined to continue providing quality Catholic education for all its school-age children. Archbishop Jose Gomez said recently that Los Angeles is the nation's largest Catholic school system, and we feel strongly here that our schools are essential to the Church's mission of serving society and promoting human dignity. About 80% of our students come from minority families, and 60% of our schools are located in urban or inner city neighborhoods. Nearly 20% of the children we serve are not Catholics. It is well known that a Catholic school education is an advantage for life. With hallmarks of academics, spirituality, community, and service, Catholic schools have long played an important role in building up inner city neighborhoods and lifting families out of poverty. Earlier this year, amid coronavirus lockdowns, Catholic schools had quickly transitioned to distance learning, a product of the dedication and professionalism of school staffs and the cooperation and vigilance of families, as well as the generosity of many benefactors who provided crucial funding for infrastructure and scholarships, especially through the Archdiocesan Catholic Education Foundation. Despite hopes of returning to in-school learning, school staffs are now faced with continued online teaching and learning due to the latest lockdown by California's Governor Gavin Newsom under the guidance of health officials. Besides the challenges of K-12 online teaching and learning in and of themselves, enrollment is steadily declining as the virus continues to devastate local economies and drive many families into crisis. Parish funding, too, is down about 40%, decreasing their capacity for school support. Across the country, the pandemic has already forced the permanent closure of nearly 140 of the nation's more than 6,000 Catholic schools, with many more at risk, in particular those serving the poorest communities. Archbishop Gomez urges Catholic school parents and others to ask government leaders to ensure that Catholic schools and students are included in any further coronavirus relief packages. He said, "Our nations should make expanding school choice for families a top social justice priority." Harp therapy. No doubt, most of us enjoy listening to harp music. It has been discovered that harp music can be therapeutic, a weapon against loneliness, pain, and other ailments, and most helpful for those who are dying. Becoming a trained and certified harp therapist takes many class hours, according to Dr. Herbert Benson of Boston. But many harpists have gone through the training, like Anita Burroughs Price, who visits and comforts the dying in their most fragile moments. Sympathy is a prime ingredient of the training, along with playing slowly with pauses and fewer notes. KISS, keep it simple and special, is a basic rule. Hospitals and nursing homes are increasingly using HARP therapy. SVD News. Veteran missionary to India passes away. Father Felix Eckerman, SVD, died on September 13th at the Techni residence at the age of 100. For more than half his life, Father Felix served as a missionary in India, a country that gained its independence the same day he was ordained a priest in 1947. His first assignment in India was among the Beals tribal people in Barwani, in the central Indian state of Madhya Pradesh. He was later appointed novice master. He served at the novitiate located in remote Khurda, right in the middle of one of the mission stations of the society. Moving the novitiate to a remote spot was Father Felix's idea to build unity among the novices. After 12 years as novice master, Father Felix was appointed rector of the Divine Word Seminary in Pune. At the end of that term, Father Felix chose to step aside because he believed it was time for a native Indian Divine Word missionary to be given this leadership position. Father Felix remained at the seminary as its spiritual director for another 27 years until he decided to return to America in 1999. Father Felix is beloved in the Divine Word community, both at Techni and among the hundreds of missionaries who got to know him during their novitiate and in Pune formation. Everyone fondly remembers his joyful, comforting, and encouraging style. All will miss him. May perpetual light shine brightly upon Father Felix. Father Richard Quadros, a COVID warrior. Father Richard Quadros, SVD, has been awarded the title COVID warrior by the government of Maharashtra, India. Father Richard is the director of Sarva Vikas Deep, a social service center run by Divine Word missionaries at Raigad district of the state of Maharashtra. During the Independence Day celebrations of India, Mr. Aditi Thackeray, Minister of State for Industry and Youth Welfare, presented the prestigious COVID Warrior Award to Father Richard for his exemplary service toward the poor and victims of the pandemic. The award includes a citation honoring him for exceptional service to nation building. Father Richard said that the award is an honor to our people who fight against all the odds during these trying times, and has dedicated it to the tribal people.
Irrespective of caste, creed, religion, and language, enabling them through community counseling to reduce social stigma and rumors, dispensing dry ration from NGOs, and regularizing government ration, promoting safe reverse migration of migrant workers from distant districts and states, generating awareness and supplying dry ration in quarantine camps, etc., are some of the main interventions we were involved in. I am humbled by this award. I dedicate this award to the people, the poor and tribals of Raigad, Maharashtra, for their excellent spirit of championship in self-motivation.
The unprecedented COVID-19 lockdown affected the tribal community immensely. Cyclone Nisarga, June 2nd, only escalated their suffering. Father Richard and his team worked untiringly during these times, organizing a safe reverse migration for about 1,200 tribals from nearby states, providing relief material to these villages affected by the cyclone and pandemic. Since 2006, SVD missionaries have been effectively involved in social welfare activities in the Raigad district. The missionaries help to alleviate the sufferings of the poor by promoting education, health and sustainable livelihood, empowerment of women, and the formalizing of government documents of the tribal people. The Sarva Vikas Deep is working in 83 of about 120 tribal villages. Missionary commitment of the SVD in Mozambique. Divine Word missionaries arrived in Mozambique in 1911 to continue the work of the Jesuits expelled by the Portuguese colonial regime. Unfortunately, our missionary presence could not manage to plant roots in a political situation hostile to religious activity. Our confreres were deported back to Portugal in 1917 and 18 and were repeatedly denied re-entry to the colony. In 1997, 2 years after the new nation declared independence from Portugal, a contingent of our society managed to re-enter the country on the verge of a civil war. At present, the missionary commitment of our society in Mozambique unfolds mainly in parishes. We have communities in the Nakali Diocese and Maputo, the capital city. Our preferential dialogue partners are the Catholic faithful. They are people of simple faith whose cultural expressions are mixed with native traditional religiosity. They belong to a familial or neighborhood setting and share it with others of different religious convictions or ecclesial belonging. Their life situation is marked by poverty and illiteracy. Mindful of our missionary identity, we promote solidarity for worldwide mission and recruit vocations for missionary and religious life. In 2019, we opened a house for formation in Maputo. In the places where we work, we take as a priority the biblical apostolate at the grassroots. Our parish-based projects of social charity are centered in Liupu. We sustain a program to help malnourished children. When a powerful cyclone hit Mozambique in March 2019, a coordinated relief effort was extended to the areas where our missionaries are working. Aware of our limitations, because we are Divine Word missionaries, we remain convinced that we need to plan and work in teams as an active way of witnessing to our intercultural brotherhood. As Divine Word missionaries, we are faithful to the Word and committed to God's mission, said Father Anselmo Ribeiro, SVD, General Counselor. Reported by Arnaldus Anota team. Poverty, evil of today. Poverty afflicts millions of people around the world. Each day, many are gripped with fear as they struggle to know where their next meal will come from, how they will provide for their families, where they will sleep each night, or to whom they can turn for help. Although it affects different communities in different ways, at its core, poverty is the result of being denied access to life's necessities, an affront to inherent human dignity. In today's hyper-connected world, global poverty has an impact on every country and community. Understanding how different types of poverty affect the lives of different people could help us break the cycle of poverty and raise the standard of living for people thus afflicted. What is poverty? Poverty is fundamentally about scarcity, a condition that prevents the fulfillment of life's basic needs: food, shelter, water, social supports, economic resources, education, and opportunities to grow and flourish. Pope Francis highlighted the imperative to eradicate poverty when he said, "A way has to be found to enable everyone to benefit from the fruits of the earth, and not simply to close the gap between the affluent and those who must be satisfied with the crumbs falling from their table. The fruits of this earth are diverse and bountiful, but many people lack access to even the most basic ones." We often reduce poverty to merely economic terms, but poverty encompasses all that makes a person, a family, or a community thrive. There are 3 types of poverty that we could discuss. The challenges often go hand in hand, although not all impoverished people suffer from all 3 types of poverty. First, poverty of resources. The most commonly recognized type of poverty, lack of physical resources, correlates most closely to one's income level, employment outlook, and ability to satisfy basic needs. Without stable access to food, water, and shelter, one's feelings of fear and inadequacy can foster self-loathing and lead to a crippling familial cycle of failure to build a better life. Second, poverty of persecution. Those suffering from poverty of persecution experience the intentional stripping or degradation of their human dignity at the hands of oppressive governments, conflict zones, tribalism, social constructs, or bigotry. Denied access to education or opportunity, physical violence, and imminent threats to security are all forms of persecution that can impoverish and devastate individuals and communities. Victims may be minority groups, refugees, women and girls, members of a particular religion, or the chronically ill. When these groups are further denied access to basic resources, they become relegated to the fringes of society. Third, poverty of loneliness. The poverty of loneliness can be as crippling as hunger. Those who suffer from a lack of adequate resources, unjust persecution, or both can also experience intense loneliness in their isolation from society. In a broader sense, the pain of abandonment can affect both the poor and the wealthy, in particular those who are elderly, sick, or dying. Often these people, forgotten and alone, experience a rapid decline in physical or mental well-being. A little love and human connection can brighten their prospects. All the cycles of poverty can be dismantled. Genesis says every person is made in God's image and deserves inherent dignity, regardless of who they are, where they are born, or what they accomplish. And the Gospels are filled with care and respect for everyone, especially the marginalized. Individually and collectively, in our families, schools, and workplaces, let's pick up Pope Francis' gauntlet and intensify our efforts to eradicate poverty in the concrete. That's all for this edition of Mission Minute News. Until we meet again, stay safe, and may Jesus' love for you make you smile.